Hahoka. Have you ever felt like your mind is too full to even breathe? Like every mistake, every regret, every doubt you've ever had is shouting inside your head. All at once. Until you can't hear your own heartbeat anymore? That's where Ian was standing that night. On the rooftop of his small apartment, staring into the dark city below. The lights flickered like restless thoughts in his mind. He wasn't thinking of jumping, no. He was thinking of escaping, but he didn't know how. Ian was 28, once full of dreams, now full of noise. He used to believe he'd change the world with his creativity. In college, he was the guy everyone went to for ideas. Speeches, projects, plans. He had that spark, that magic. But somewhere along the way, life poured sand into the gears of his passion. He had a job he didn't love, deadlines that ate his sleep, and expectations that crushed his chest. Every morning he'd wake up with the same thought. I can't do this anymore. And every night, he'd lie in bed replaying every failure like a movie stuck on loop. The promotion he missed. The girl he lost. The words he wished he had said. He didn't realize that his biggest enemy wasn't the world outside. It was the storm inside his own mind. One evening, after another failed presentation at work, Ian stormed out of the office. His boss's words echoed in his ears. You've got potential, Ian, but you're too distracted. You overthink everything. Learn to focus. Focus. He wanted to scream. How can I focus when my head won't stop talking? He wandered aimlessly through the city until he found himself standing near an old park he used to visit as a kid. There, under the dim streetlight, sat a wrinkled man on a bench feeding pigeons. His white beard glowed faintly in the light. Ian didn't know why, but he sat beside him, silent. After a few minutes, the old man spoke softly, without looking at him. You look like someone who's carrying a heavy mind. Ian turned, startled. Excuse me? The old man smiled. Your shoulders are tense, your eyes are lost, and your breathing shallow. The mind is loud, isn't it? Ian hesitated, then nodded. It never stops. The man dropped a few seeds on the ground and said, Then maybe it's time you learn to empty it. That word hit Ian like thunder. Empty. Wasn't the goal to fill your mind with knowledge, ambition, goals? That's what everyone said. Empty my mind. How would that help? He asked, half laughing. The old man looked at him for the first time. His eyes were calm, deep. The kind that seemed to see right through people. Because when the mind is full of noise, it has no space for wisdom. You can't hear your soul whisper when your fears are shouting. Ian frowned. That sounds poetic, but life isn't that simple. The old man smiled again. Exactly. That's why you suffer. You've complicated something that was meant to be simple. You've forgotten how to breathe, how to pause, how to be. Empty your mind, and you'll remember. The man stood up, patted Ian on the shoulder, and walked away slowly, disappearing into the night. Ian sat there confused, almost annoyed. Empty my mind. What did that even mean? But somehow, that phrase kept echoing in his head long after the old man was gone. That night, back in his apartment, Ian stared at his reflection in the mirror. Tired eyes. Hollow stare. Unshaven face. He whispered to himself, Empty your mind. He sat on the floor, closed his eyes, and tried to push away every thought, every regret, every voice. But they kept coming back louder, stronger. He clenched his fists, frustrated. Minutes passed. Then, somewhere between exhaustion and surrender, he let go. He stopped trying to stop thinking. He simply listened. To his breath. To the silence. And for the first time in years, the noise began to fade. Just a little. Somewhere deep within that moment of stillness, Ian felt something shift. Like a locked door opening a crack. He didn't know it yet, But this was the beginning of a transformation that would change everything. The words of the old man whispered again in his memory. Empty your mind, and you'll find yourself. Ian opened his eyes, a faint tear rolling down his cheek. He didn't understand it all, but he knew one thing. He wanted to learn. He needed to. And so began his journey, not to conquer the world, but to conquer his own mind. Morning sunlight streamed weakly through Ian's window. He hadn't slept much, but for the first time in a long while, his mind wasn't choking him. It was quieter. Not silent, but calmer. He sat by his desk, the same desk that once drowned in unfinished projects and sticky notes of impossible goals. Now, he just stared at the empty surface. Clean, still, simple. He whispered again, empty your mind. It sounded strange, but it felt right. Still, he didn't know where to begin. How do you actually empty a mind filled with years of noise, guilt, and fear? The next day, Ian returned to the park, hoping to find the old man again. The bench was empty, the pigeons gone. Disappointment hit him. Maybe it had just been a random encounter, a few words that wouldn't mean anything tomorrow. He sighed and sat anyway. For a while, he just watched the world move, the leaves swaying, children running, wind brushing across his face. And then it hit him. This was what the old man meant. The world was happening silently, beautifully. And he had never noticed it before, because his head was always too loud. He closed his eyes and listened. Not to his thoughts, but to the moment. The rustle of trees, the laughter of children, the faint hum of the city. For the first time, he didn't try to control anything. He just was. And in that stillness, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Days turned into weeks. Ian made it a habit to sit quietly every morning before work. No phone, no music, no distractions. Just him and the silence. At first, his thoughts fought back. Memories of failures, random worries, the haunting what-ifs. But gradually, as he practiced letting them come and go, they started losing their power. He learned a truth that changed everything. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf them. He started writing again, not for deadlines, not for approval, but to feel. Short paragraphs about life, about stillness, about the noise that once ruled him. He called it the Silence Journal. One night, his old college friend, Sad, called. "Bro, where have you been? You disappeared." Ian laughed softly. "Just taking a break from everything." "A break? From life?" Sad chuckled. "You sound like a monk." "Maybe I needed to," Ian said, his tone calm but certain. "You ever notice how we chase things that don't even make us happy?" I did. I kept running, thinking peace was waiting at the finish line. But peace isn't there. It's here, inside. Sad went silent for a moment. "You've changed, man." Ian smiled. "Maybe I've finally heard myself." At work, things started shifting too. He wasn't suddenly perfect. Deadlines still came, people still criticized. But his reactions changed. Before, one harsh word could ruin his day. Now, he simply breathed through it. Before, fear of failure froze him. Now, he faced it with calm clarity. He learned to listen. Not to respond, but to understand. He learned to act, not out of panic, but out of purpose. And slowly, people around him noticed. One morning, his boss called him into the office. "Ian, I don't know what's changed, but your focus, your attitude, it's different. You've become an anchor in chaos." Ian smiled. "Maybe I just learned to stop fighting the chaos." His boss raised an eyebrow. "Whatever it is, keep it up." One evening, as Ian walked home under the fading sky, he saw a familiar figure sitting on that same old bench. The man with the white beard. His heart leapt. He hurried over. "Sir, I was hoping I'd find you again." The old man looked up and smiled. "I told you." When the student is ready, the teacher appears. Ian laughed softly. You were right. I started, trying to empty my mind. It's not easy, but it's working. The old man nodded. It's never easy. The mind is like a cup. Fill it with noise, and you spill peace. Empty it, and you fill it with truth. Ian sat beside him. But I have a question. If we keep emptying our mind, won't we lose ambition? Drive, purpose? The man chuckled. That's what most people fear. That stillness means weakness. But it's the opposite. When your mind is empty, you don't lose ambition, you lose confusion. You act, not react. You see clearly what truly matters. Ian felt a warmth spread through his chest. For years, he had been chasing noise, thinking it was progress. But now he understood. Silence wasn't the absence of life. It was the presence of peace. Weeks later, Ian began posting his writings online. Short reflections from his silence journal. To his surprise, people started responding. Thousands of them. Comments flooded in. This spoke to my heart. I needed this today. It feels like you're describing my life. Ian realized something beautiful. His pain had turned into purpose. By learning to quiet his mind, he had opened space to heal others. And one night, as he stood again on that same rooftop where his journey had begun, he smiled at the stars. The same city lights blinked below, but they no longer looked like restless thoughts. They looked like hope. He whispered to the wind, "Thank you for the silence." Epilogued the message. We live in a world that glorifies business, where silence feels like laziness, and stillness feels like failure. But the truth is this: when your mind is too full, your soul can't breathe. Empty your mind, not of dreams but of noise, not of goals but of fear. When you learn to silence the chaos within, you'll finally hear the voice that's been waiting all along. Your own.